good to be here with the top 1%. I'm not talking about the Occupy Wall Street top 1%, but actually the top 1% in terms of the educated world. Because only 1% of the world has advanced past high school. So if there's nothing else that you take from my talk today, this is it. It's you. You're it. If you don't concern yourselves with the challenges and the problems in the world today, who will? So I don't know if that freaks you out. That freaks me out. I feel more accountable knowing that. But I think it's a good thing to know. And I think it's actually inspiring as an entrepreneur as well. And you may have heard the saying that necessity is the mother of invention, which naturally begs the question, what is necessary today? We just passed the 7 billion mark in terms of world population. So that in itself is a challenge. There's a lot of necessity that's created by 7 billion people, right? So we have to ask ourselves, how are we going to educate a rapidly changing world? How are we going to defend and extend human rights? How are we going to live sustainably and live fulfilling lives? All of these questions, these are macro problems that create incredible opportunities for entrepreneurs all over the world. There's a quote by an economic historian that's one of my favorite quotes. I wanted to share it with you. His name is Arnold Toynbee, and actually he's been quoted in Nobel Prize speeches, and this is why. He said, "The 20th century will be chiefly remembered by future generations not as an era of political conflicts or technical inventions, but as an age in which human society dared to think of the welfare of the human race as a practical objective." And when you think of some of the technical inventions that we've created over the past century, because Arnold Toynbee was literally, in his prime around 1900. When you think of the incredible inventions that we've created to advance human welfare during that period of time, he's right. This is the time. So a lot of articles and studies have been written about the importance of startups and entrepreneurs, but I wanted to quantify just how important they are to our country and our cities, our hometowns. So you may have heard the statistic that 100% of net job growth over the past 20 years comes from companies that are less than 5 years old. So those are startup companies. They create the jobs today. They are the Fortune 500s of tomorrow. The interesting fact is that Fortune 500s, the average lifespan of a Fortune 500 is about 40 to 50 years. Almost 500,000 companies are started every year in the US. So we know that there's growth being generated. We know that there are new companies, seeds being planted and sprouting. But my problem as a venture capital investor is that I have trouble finding them. It's a bit of a Where's Waldo problem, because entrepreneurs don't necessarily walk around with t-shirts on that say, "I'm an aspiring entrepreneur and I'm raising capital, call me." Makes it tough. So when you ask entrepreneurs what the #1 challenge that they're having is right now, at this point in time, they'll say financing. And I'm not so sure that that's the case. I'm not sure that that's the primary challenge, but we can explore this a little bit. So the question is, where is all the venture capital? 75% of the world's venture capital is here in the US. 50% of it is in California. That's where the industry is headquartered. So every month when you put aside money in your IRA and your mutual funds, about 2% of that allocation for a mutual fund might go towards alternative assets. And basically that's me. That's venture capital. Could be real estate, other private equity, but alternative assets. That all goes to California, where it is invested in California startups. Because I hate to tell you, but once we invest in a company, we like to keep track of them, and we like to keep them close. I don't want to get on an airplane to go to a board meeting. So what has that done for the great state of California? past 15 years, a 22% net job growth rate. When you put all of your early stage capital in one place, where's all your job growth going to go? There is a very real geographic component to the choices we make about our investments. So this naturally begs the question, though, because there might be better opportunities in California. I'm not going to say there are not. So I did some research here. The question was, are more entrepreneurs born in California? Are people just smarter there? Is the water better? And it turns out that the top 4 internet companies in California, no, none of these guys were born in California. None of them. White Plains, DC, Miami, Lansing, Michigan. I mean, can you imagine if Google were based in Lansing, Michigan? The world would be a lot different, right? That's $500 billion in combined market cap, hundreds of thousands of jobs. Now, they are spread out all over. Google's, India operation eclipses anything that we have here. But, when we think about the choices that we make, where we're sending our early stage capital, definitely consider the choices that you're making in your own investment portfolios. So, as a VC here in Cincinnati, starting out 7 years ago, my main challenge was deal flow. I had to find high quality ideas and entrepreneurs to invest in, and I will tell you, my expectation was coming, from the strategy consulting world at Deloitte and working with big Fortune 500 companies. I had worked with really talented people at Johnson & Johnson, XM Satellite Radio, all these really cool companies. And so when I came to Cincinnati, I thought, wow, we have P&G, Kroger, Macy's. The level of talent here is just incredible. The deal flow is going to be incredible. Interesting thing, the phone was not ringing off the hook. But then I would go to happy hour with friends, and they had great ideas. And they were really talented working at all these companies. But they would bemoan the fact that Cincinnati is not really a town for entrepreneurs. There's no early stage capital here. There are no investors. I am literally sitting across the table from them as they are saying this. So we needed a catalyst. And that catalyst came in the form of Cincinnati Innovates, which is a regional innovation competition. It's a prize competition, about $100,000 in grants that we raise every year. It starts May 1st every year. And I would love to tell you that this was all my idea, but it wasn't. In fact, there is a rich history of contests in the world of innovation. And it starts all the way back in the 1700s with a longitude prize. So the British government had spent an insane amount of money internally trying to develop better nautical navigation tools. And they were just failing one after the other. So finally, they just opened it up to the world. Open call, $100,000 in today's dollars to the guy that could figure out how to navigate at sea. And a clockmaker named John Harrison won that prize. And then when you look at not just navigation, but aeronautical innovation, the leaps and bounds that we've made just through prize competitions, it's incredible. So Charles Lindbergh did not fly across the Atlantic for kicks. He did it for the $25,000 Ortieg prize. And when you look at the $1 million Ansari X prize, that was the prize that went to the first team that could launch a commercial spacecraft into space, bring it back, and do it all over again successfully. 10 teams spent $10 million chasing a $1 million prize. So prizes work. They get people going. So we just copied off of those competitions and said, all right, we'll put up some grant money, and this is what we've been able to accomplish just here in Cincinnati. We've only put up $250,000 in grants, but collectively, that's resulted in over $5 million in follow-on capital for just our winners, not even our finalists or the people that participated. So really, really incredible. And we engage the community, we open it up, people can vote. We've had over 1 million page views from around the world looking at all these great Cincinnati innovations. And I'll tell you about a couple of them. One, This is a company called Gamma Dynamics, and they make electrofluidic displays. Basically what that is, it's an e-ink display similar to your Kindle, right? So the Kindle, amazingly, uses very little power in that display technology. It's ink-based, not light-based. Well, what Gamma Dynamics has done is they've created a display similar to the Kindle in that it's e-ink, only it's full color and video capable. So that's disruptive to the entire LCD, liquid crystal display market. Every screen that glows, your iPad, your iPhone, the laptop screen, your computer monitor, and it only uses 1% of the energy. Now, interestingly, with your cell phone, about 90% of your battery power goes to the display. So when you think of 90% of the battery power goes to the display, well, with a Gamma Dynamics display, you could be measuring your battery life in weeks instead of hours. But really where that translates is your battery can be that much smaller. So you could literally have a cell phone that's the size of 2 credit cards. I'm waiting for that to come out. Imagine if there were a Cincinnati Innovates in every city. What would we find? If we found a stroke diagnostic headband and a display that could be 1% of the power of a liquid crystal display here in Cincinnati, what would we find in Tulsa? What would we find in Charlotte? What's being left on the table, right? So if you think if every city had a Cincinnati Innovates, we would be reversing the venture capital dollars. We would be reversing the brain drain. Our top college grads would not be moving to the coast because we'd be finding them here and funding them here. Replicating Cincinnati Innovates, what do you need? You need a prize and you need a website. So CrowdSpark is one. Create a contest, 5 minutes, there you go, you're up and running. And prizes, heck, we have law firms like Taft, LPK, design firm, contributing awards. These are all cash and in-kind awards. So this is not hard stuff, but this is advancing innovation and human welfare. So before we get too far afield in thinking big thoughts about how we're going to change the world through entrepreneurship, we actually need to examine, why do people choose or not choose, in fact, to become entrepreneurs? And I want to focus on why people choose not to become an entrepreneur. So in the research for my book, I spent a lot of time asking entrepreneurs about their challenges and their hurdles, and one common theme kept coming up, which was surprising to me, and to me really doesn't relate to entrepreneurship, but at the end of the day, it's a practical problem. Well, guess what? The average American thinks that health insurance is really expensive, in fact, not affordable unless they're employed. I'm here to tell you, health insurance is not that expensive in the grand scheme of things. If you are a 30-year-old male and you're relatively healthy, you can get health insurance for $50 a month. That's less than an iPhone with a data plan. And how do we determine how much health insurance is going to cost? Well, the typical things, right? So Milton from Office Space is going to spend more on health insurance than the situation, right? So keep that in mind. Better health means, better premiums. And you can get quotes at ehealthinsurance.com. So health insurance should not be the reason why not to become an entrepreneur. But when you ask entrepreneurs, okay, what's the other hurdle? Beyond health insurance, check that box, got it. Okay, got health insurance, what's the problem? Financing. And venture capital investors are not the #1 source of financing. Even though when you ask entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, usually that's the first, that's the first place they go. So who do you think funds more startups? Friends and family. That's right, friends and family and informal angels. So here's a story. This is Ian McGlynn. Actually, this is not the real guy. I could not find a picture of him. But $17,000 investment in his girlfriend's friend's business, which happened to be the body shop. That $17,000 friendly investment netted him $230 million. So that's probably a good case. I will say that most of the time, these friends and family investments are more gifts or grants at the end of the day. But that's point number one. You are far more likely to meet your first investor at the table at Thanksgiving than at a boardroom downtown. And we look, as venture capital investors, for the big market, the profitable business model, right? And we look for management teams that are compelling, right? People who have done it before. When you ask banks, though, why people don't get credit, or why people don't get financing, I should say, it's bad credit. So if you go to a venture investor, we're not checking your credit, we're looking at your business plan, we're looking at your resume. When you go to a bank, they're looking at all those things, but they're also looking at your credit score. And if that doesn't totally put you out of the running, it's going to cost you. Look at this, just a change and 150 points in FICO score for a $50,000 loan, $33,000 more in interest expense. It's crazy. So credit's really important. But if you can sustain the first 2 years of ramen noodles and bootstrap your way to success, studies have shown that entrepreneurship actually does pay off. So beyond solving the problems of the world, you will have a more comfortable lifestyle, which is a good thing to know. And consistently across the spectrum of different types of businesses and different types of entrepreneurs, people consistently fare better. They have twice as much in net income and 6 times as much in net assets, total wealth, as entrepreneurs than they do as employees. So in closing, I would encourage you to give it a shot, even if it's on the side, even if you're not going to quit your day job. And secondly, you don't have to move to California. You can start up right here. Thank you.